Welcome to the Money Mindset and Mastery Podcast. Today, our host Jim Lao talks with Dean Mizzi, a hardscape expert, about his new venture in the Pro-Fit Estimator tool. This program helps contractors estimate costs and maximize profits, focusing on essential skills like pricing and financial management. Dean also discusses the broader benefits for real estate investors and plans for educational collaboration. Learn more about this innovative tool on Udemy.
Welcome to the show. We're here to testify. Jim and Ryan will take you for a ride. Your finance meets psychology. We're gonna dive into the depths of your mind. Come along, let's fly. Money likes a mastery. That's what it's all about. I'm unlocking your potential, no doubt. We'll show you how to make your.
Hey everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone again to our episode of the Money Mindset and Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Lao, and joining me today, as always, Ryan. Ryan, how are things today?
Great, beautiful day, and we're excited to have a new guest on board. So,
Yeah, we do have a new guest, and joining us today is Dean Mizzi. Dean, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, our pleasure. Just so people understand what we're doing today with today's episode, Ryan and I had an idea recently where we wanted to spotlight some of our clients who are business owners and own a business that help people either make money or save money or both. And in this case, Dean has launched a new business that we wanted to spotlight. In terms of our relationship, Dean's been a client of mine for many years, but he's also my stepbrother. So we're also family. So full disclosure to everyone. But I just wanted to give Dean an opportunity to spotlight his business because I think it's quite fascinating. It's interesting. And so Dean, again, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
And let's talk a little bit about you and your background before we kind of get into the business that you're currently launching and program. So tell us a little bit about your experience in hardscape and renovation. And the first question for me is, what is hardscape?
Okay. So hardscape is a division of landscape.
Okay.
We just term it landscaping here in Canada, but it actually is separate. Landscape is scaping land. Hardscaping is hard pavers, interlock, rocks, and such. So I've always been into the hardscape. So whenever I, in the past, have had a client, they say, well, what about trees and that? And I come right out and say, yeah, you know what? It's one thing I don't do, but I do have a list of plants that I will suggest, and they're usually perennial, which means they'll be there year after year. You want to do annuals, the annuals being flowers and such. You go ahead and put your own. If you want, have them on site, I'll put them in. But I focused on the walkway, the driveways, the interlock, retaining walls, the hardscape. So there's your term, hardscape.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of detail in hardscaping. There's a right way and a wrong way.
Right.
And lucky for me, I enjoy doing it because I learned it the right way. So,
Well, that's good. And you've been doing this for what, 20 years now?
20 years, yeah.
And I guess when people look at hiring someone like yourself, of course, they look at the talent and the skill. Someone getting into the business like yourself has obviously a natural talent and skill set, but there's another part of what you do, which is the business side of it, right?
Yep.
And a lot of it has to do with numbers, and that's kind of what we're leading to in terms of the program that you've launched as well. So why don't we talk about, like, how did you learn about pricing jobs and and some of the experiences that you've had with that?
Well, it's funny you say that because that's how this whole thing stemmed from. It was basically the majority of people. Well, let me go back a bit. The amount of money that's to be made in hardscaping, and we do renovations as well, it's in the billions, especially in the States. Like $170 billion was spent last year in hardscape alone in the U.S. 142 billion in renos. So to have that kind of money flow and not have any formal education for a contractor to be able to go. Like if you wanted to be an electrician, there's courses for it. Plumbing, there's courses for it. Of course, architecture and drafting, there's courses for it. Where do you go to be a general for renovations? Where do you go to be a general for hardscaping? It's a school of hard knocks. So the learning process of pricing is literally that, where you're going to you're going to do your own statistics on how long every single part of a project is going to take, and add that to the cost of the material, and then throw into the loop your overhead of what it's going to cost you to run that company. So what I've done is I've implemented that, and actually those are my ads. I just started promoting it now. I just finally launched it. There's 5 platforms. One is an introduction to hardscape because it's one of my favorite parts of the business. I actually prefer it over renos. It's more enjoyable to me. That, and I got a short attention span. I can get in and out in a week or two with a landscape, or hardscape. Whereas with a reno, it could drag on, and it just. So besides that, the learning part of it was School of Hard Knocks, where I literally started. Well, I worked for another company, and they had some sort of a template for pricing out, and for whatever reason, the owner wasn't giving me the way he's coming up with his pricing. It was just a platform that somebody he knew came up with, and he said, use it, it works. I'm like, you're pricing us out here. I mean, it's pretty hard to make a sale on something when you're not telling me where this cost is and could we bring it down? No, just trust it. Okay. So what I've done is I've literally come up with this really ugly program. And I say it's ugly because there's so much on it that you have to tweak. But once you've done it once, you're good to go. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you an example. There's a disposal. Well, what do you charge for disposal? Now, how do you know how much a disposal is going to be? So statistically, through the years that I've done it, I've come down to basically 1 yard, 2 yard, 3 yard, having a number attached to it, a value, I should say, along with on my platform, how many people you've got working. So you've got that determined. So it'll cost this much for labor. It'll cost this much for disposal of that material. And having said that, what's your factor in there for a markup that you're not going to gouge somebody and maybe even lose the job? That's one element of many. So I've got it down to here. You know what? Let me teach you. Take a look at the course. Take a look at the platform. If this is a serious thing for you to get into, as to say hardscaping or renos, because it's 2 different programs that I've actually built for it. Explore it, figure it out, and I guarantee you on your very next job that you will get that profit that you assumed to get, 100%. And there's no schooling out there for that.
It sounds almost like you've watched Nona cook her lasagna or cook her soup for many years, 100%. And you've analyzed it right down to the single recipe, like half a sprinkle. And again, you're taking 20 plus years of experience and being able to really put it out there for people to understand. And again, there's somebody doing their driveway 2 doors down, so you may hear them crunching away doing the driveway, but make sure run out and show them your program to make sure the business owners understand how to properly anticipate budgets and the cost of things. So
absolutely.
Even with the Nonna example, if all of a sudden you want to sell Nonna's lasagna, right, Dean's going to help you determine what the cost is, right, in terms of the all the ingredients and the cooking and the staff and whatever else, and the profit margin on that lasagna, because that's really important. You can't just give Nonna's lasagna away all the time, right? You have to, if you're trying to make some money. So.
Well, so let's stick on the lasagna here. So if I ask you,
I'm getting hungry.
So actually, I got lasagna out for tonight. You want to come over?
Sure.
So if I ask you, how do you make a lasagna? Well, okay, you've got your recipe. You all got a different recipe. I got my recipe. Well, let's start with what kind of sauce. Is it homemade or did you buy something? Well, there's a difference in price there. Are you using a gas stove or using electric? Well, there's a difference in price there. So how can I ask you how much it's going to cost that lasagna to make and say that to someone else. You know, Jim says it should cost this. This is what I'm going to charge you. Well, it's silly to do it that way.
Right.
That's what my program is. Basically, yeah.
I was just going to say the important question, though, Dean, is this: ricotta or cottage cheese?
Ricotta, man. It has to be ricotta.
Sorry, go ahead.
And it has to be homemade, too.
Yes, absolutely. And we know someone who makes the good homemade stuff, too.
There you go.
My son will be the judge of that. So,
oh yeah,
he's a lasagna expert. So,
there you go.
Yeah. So let's talk about the program, Dean. Is there more than one part to it in terms of? I mean, you've talked about there's a dashboard component, but there's an educational component. So why don't you kind of break that down for us? How this program works?
Awesome. So the landing page that I've got going out that everyone is going to right now is the free training, and what that's for is the actual program itself to estimate. So it literally is more so how to price. So it's for, I want to say it's for a more advanced scenario, as to say you own a company or you work for somebody and you want to bring a system into the company that will help that company and you to get the numbers that you're wanting. But outside of that, I created an introduction to Hardscape. And what that is basically someone that wants to get into the industry. They love it. Maybe they're retired, or maybe they're young enough that they're just getting into it and they want to learn more about it. So I've got one of the courses. It's literally a course. It's a couple hours. It's on Udemy, and you basically will learn materials and the method for hardscaping. Basically going through all the process of from dig down to tamping polymeric into the joints and saying see you later. And in there as well, I've put learning of simple math equations, because you need to be able to estimate quantities. So it's a good course for an introduction. The only thing it's doing, though, I'm going to be honest with you, it's teasing you to say, okay, well, how do I price this out now? Well, that's a program. So it brings you right back to I call it the Pro-Fit Estimator, a play on the word profit. So it's a pro/fit. Because it is, when you're done, it's pro-fit. You're a pro. You're going to be a pro. The idea of what makes a pro, well, I mean, you could be good at what you do, but you need to know your numbers. And you need to be able to get those jobs to enable you to buy more machines, buy more trucks, invest in your future. Otherwise, you're just working for a paycheck for somebody. And that's what this is all for. So on top of that, if you'd like the Hardscape one, the second version of it is Hardscape estimating and methodology, which is complete with its own dashboard that you get to download and keep. It's yours. So a lot of companies out there that do the similar thing, you sign up for a program. Could cost you, a couple $1,000s to sign up, and then X amount a month to become a member, and it's all done in cloud form, right? You don't download any because they don't want to give away their program. I'm giving my program away. I'm giving it to you. I'm saying, here, download it. It's yours. If I ever upgrade it, I'll put it out there that you can upgrade it. But right now, the way it is, it's tweak proof. It's 100%. And it's yours. You get to use it. And that's part of the next level, which is hardscape methodology and estimating. I thought, well, if I'm doing that, I should do another one for renos. And renos is a little bit different. The numbers are tweaked different. And all my numbers, it's all plug and play. So all the numbers are different. All the percentages are different. The only thing that doesn't change is you figuring out your business budget. Because without that, you're leading yourself to a blind corner. You don't really know what you should be charging. So I've implemented a template for a business budget. So you work out what it is that your profit margin should be. And it's right down to the week, if you want. The X amount a week should be your profit. And this is what you need to make. Without that, you're literally blind. So should I be making $10,000 a week on profit? Should I make $2,000 a week on profit? How do I know? Well, work it out on the template. It's something that I've added to the dashboard. Now, once you've done your numbers and you've done your estimating, and it spits out the what you should be, possibly charging, You can still tweak it if you think it's high, if it's low. But it's going to tell you how many hours it's going to take, how much your labor cost is, what the project is going to cost you, and what you intend to sell it for, and showing you a profit. So it's showing you 5 things, showing you your profit as well. Then I've got a tracker page. The tracker page is a job tracker, which once you start getting your receipts for that project, you've sold it, let's say, then you start putting your receipts in, and those receipts will correspond with how much money you've taken for a deposit, first progressive payment, and everything else, and start subtracting it. Where at the final end, including your labor, once you've put all your numbers in there, you can determine, did you come in right? Did your profit actually say what you said you were going to be? Did you make what you said you were going to make? If you did, great. If you didn't, let's figure out where you went, wrong. And it's going to show you. It's going to show, was it extra labor? Maybe you should have added more for labor. Material costs went up. Maybe you should have accounted for that halfway through the job, because you saw it was, it was $3,000 for that material last week. Why is it $5,000? And you just lost $2,000. You should have went back to the owner and said, "We got a problem here." When I quoted it, it was only $3,000, $4,000 for that product. Now it's $5,000, $6,000. We need to adjust this. That's what the job tracker is for. So you can actually be on top of it before it goes south. You know what I mean?
I say during
now, while you're doing all this, sorry.
I was going to say during like COVID and stuff, the cost of lumber went up significantly, right?
Oh, it was ridiculous. The 2x4 was $11.
Yeah, a great
for
example.
A 2x4.
A great example is as your costs change, you're able to update it, real live, know where you're standing at the end of the day versus going in blind, as you said.
Yep.
And at the end, being like, "Oh man, I just lost $1,000. Should have brought my free labor of family to come in." And
a hardscaper will have already sold 3/4 of his season by now. April and May is when you're doing all your sales. Yeah. Well, so if I just sold 10 jobs, I was at a home show, let's say, and I just sold 10 projects, we're in April. Come July, August, September, when I get to it, the prices might have changed. I can put a little blurb on the contract saying, the prices are subject to change, but take that to heart, because lately prices are subject to change, because that'll change what your profit line is going to be and what you should have charged. So, yeah. So I did a different one for renos. And renos, I put a second page because you guys are number guys. When you have, I put a second page for subcontractors, because it kind of didn't jive with what my estimate was going to be for what me and my group was going to do. As soon as I put a subcontractor into the equation, I'm basically bumping up the amount because it's my project. Instead of me doing the drywall, or instead of me doing the plumbing or the electrical, I'm going to get a pro with a license to come in. I have to. And they're going to give me a quote. So I may tweak it a little bit, so at least I can make something on it, because I've got time in there. It's my project. I own it. So that's the way business is. If I put it on the page of my estimating, it brought my profit percentage down and it didn't jive. So I put a separate page completely for it. And now that fixed it right up. And it's funny because for about a year, it was throwing me off. I'm like, why is it throwing me off? What's going on? Until I figured it out. You know what? It's the subcontractors that are throwing me off. So I put another page in there for subcontractors. That also goes into the totals, because while this is all going on, it's making a contract for you. So it's actually breaking down the numbers for the contract, where it's saying, it's filling it out for you. Where at the end it'll say, this much for a deposit, X amount for the first progressive payment, say it was a basement or something, 2 more payments after that, and it breaks it all down for you, so that the homeowner and you are working off on the same page, literally. Yeah. This much is due on the first day of the second week. And the homeowner understands that because they signed it. It's doing that for you. So it's quite the nifty program. I'm trying to keep my language nice.
Yeah.
It's quite the nifty program.
Well, one of the things I just thought about too is, having worked with, mechanics and people who do construction and whatnot, sometimes the cost can get out of hand, but, somebody skimming off the side, I think it's a great potential that you're able to see, hey, I'm using a lot more lumber or certain materials than what I originally quoted. You can go back and be like, what's going on here, guys? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so on that, having said that, there's one more page on my dashboard. That's why I call it a dashboard. that is for add-ons. And literally that, I mean, on so many projects I've been, the homeowner comes and says, do you remember we were talking about? Yeah, I do. Can we add that on? Okay, fine. But before we do, I'm going to tell you what it's going to cost relative to, materials and labor. And then if you sign, I'll go ahead and do it. And that's all on the dashboard as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They start off with 12-foot ceilings, and suddenly they want 18-foot, and instead of a 10-foot pool, they want a 20-foot pool with a waterfall on the back end, right?
Yeah. Well, here's a good example. We decided that we want to add a bathroom in the basement. Well, why didn't you tell me that before? That's a big item. So we're talking, an extra 20 G's because we got to bust concrete, we got to get the plumber in, we got to do the roughing, we got to reframe it.
Because they're thinking $5,000 for something like that, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not going to happen.
You could build an outhouse in the backyard for them much cheaper, probably. So.
But you know what you just said to what you just said, Jim, someone might have said, well, I just did one a couple of weeks ago. It was $7,000. So I'm going to charge you $7,000. Well, why would you do that? You don't know it's going to cost something. Do your math. Yeah. Figure it out. Yeah. That's the schooling that we don't have as contractors. We don't have that schooling. Now, if you want to go as a project manager, absolutely. There's schooling out there for that. And it's a different mentality. It's for project management, for example, you're completely relying on all the subcontractors because you're working for a corporation where all they do is sub everything out, and they tender out for this and they tender out for that. So this is going to the guy who's doing who's having to fill out the tenders. This is going for that contractor that, back to School of Hard Knocks. Either you have the schooling or you don't. Either you have the knowledge or you don't. Well, you know what? What's the most important tool you can have? Is it your Bobcat? Is it your saw? No, it's the one that's going to get you the next job. It's the one that I'm just saying to you, use this,
And you're offering a way to simplify that because I'm sure contractors and hardscapers and whatever else love paperwork and all that, right?
Absolutely.
So the bottom line is you're offering them a way to say, okay, I know you hate doing this. It is part of the business. Yeah. Let's make it as painless as possible so you can actually be out there doing what you enjoy doing. Yeah. I think that's fantastic. And Ryan knows this about me in our business. I kind of handle all of our processes and whatever else. So knowing that you've developed a program where as they're plugging in these numbers to figure out cost and profit, it's also spitting out and creating that contract at the back end. It's not a separate process that they have to do to then create that contract and whatever else. So again, it's very efficient is what it sounds like to me.
It is. And the pages I've done for it, so what it's doing is it's translating the numbers over. But the wording is always going to be different. No two jobs are the same. Mm-hmm. So I've put typical verbiage on there, if that's the word, where you still have to go in and tweak it. It may not be 350 square feet of flooring. It may be 200 square feet of flooring. But the fact that it's there, flooring, X amount of square feet, all you have to do is tweak it. So it's there. But the numbers, to me, the importance is the numbers, the bottom line. What did I say it was going to be? It's translated that over to the contracts. And I've got it in 1 week, 2 week, multiple weeks. So you can determine how long this project is going to take based on what you should do.
So let me ask you this question then, because I mean, many people have gone through different types of renovations and constructions, and budgets always kind of blow up all the time. Would you say that this program does a pretty good job of keeping you in line with what you had originally quoted the client, assuming no changes, right? So assuming the client doesn't throw any different changes and, hey, let's add this or do that. But this is what we've quoted, and is the outcome price-wise pretty much close to what you've originally quoted?
100%.
Okay, so that's good for the client as well.
It's great for the client. The client is the first thing the client's going to say is, "There's no unexpected cost that I'm going to have to determine." Only if I went as a sneaky and underquoted it on purpose, knowing that I could bring it up after. That's I don't work that way. You can still use our program that way. You'd be surprised, right? So they want the job. They go in. They say they cut it by 3,000, but they also cut something out, and then they come back and they say, "Well, you're going to need this. You should just go for it." And by the time it's called being on the dance floor. Now that the client's on the dance floor, they're going to dance, right? I don't like working that way. Instead, this is the truth of what it is. This is what it's going to cost. This is what it is.
So this might be kind of going slightly off topic from the course, but when, a lot of people are told if you're going to get a quote by 2, 3, 4 different contractors, and you're going to get the one that's like right at the low end, and maybe another one's at the higher end. Would you say that if it's at the low end, it's because potentially they are going to then not necessarily complete the project as originally priced? Like they might throw in some other things in there where if they're following your program, it's no, this is what we've quoted. This is what we're landing on, again, assuming no changes.
They're taking you to a dance without the dinner.
Yeah. So that mindset of getting 3 quotes, 4 quotes is got 2 different purposes. One for the homeowner and one for the contractor. The contractor is going to want to go in and have 1 or 2 other ones pretty close to what they're quoting. Mm-hmm. The one that the homeowner's looking at, the low one, if that's the one that they go for, the mistake is that they went for the low one. What a homeowner should be doing is looking at the comparable. Oh, if this one here was, $20,000. This one here was $22,000. It's almost the same. This one here is $5,000. How can it be $5,000? So let's look at the 20 and the 22,000. Now, what they're going to do is a judgment call. Do I feel comfortable with Dean, or do I feel comfortable with, this other person? So now it's a personality thing. So a lot of the sale has got to do with personal, and how much does that person really know? How much? Well, let's get them both back and let's find out, right? So you'll end up getting the 2 higher bids, or they should be going for the 2 higher bids. They go, especially with hardscape, the people cheat in hardscaping. They don't even do it properly because they're just new in the business and they saw a video on how to do it. Maybe not even any experience. Maybe not even done their own yard to experiment, And I see it, and they didn't go with me. It's around the corner. They went with someone else. That someone else actually destroyed what they were doing. The following year, they called me back. They said, "We need you to fix this."
So it cost them a lot more than what they originally would have paid.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So then your program, from my understanding, is it's not necessarily just for the new contractor getting business, but also for seasoned contractors who, again, maybe they're not numbers people. Maybe they're finding out, like, why am I not profiting as much as I, feel that I should? So you'd say it's 100%. for both, correct? Okay.
9. Let me bring that down. 5 out of 7 contractors don't even have a system in place.
Right.
And it's not to anyone's fault. It's just they're used to doing it old school.
Mm-hmm.
They want to do a floor. Well, it's X amount of square feet. I know that they're going to, it's going to cost you $30 a square foot. That's what I'm going to charge. Well, is it? Like, do you even look at really what's involved? It's almost like a guideline. The program is going to also make you go through a list of things that you need to do on every project. And if that item is not on that project, scratch it out. That's one item that you don't have to worry about. But what about this one? Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, okay. I didn't even take that into consideration. Well, you would have lost a crap load of money because you forgot that one. Well, lucky it's on there, so put it in. But, I got a painter. Painter might say, how big is the room? I wouldn't mind how big is the room. Do you know how much paint do you need? And by the way, it's brand new basement, so it's got to be primed, painted. The trim and doors have to be painted. Don't look at the room as a square foot and don't figure out a price that way, because the only one that's going to get messed up is both of us. Because you're going to say it wasn't enough money in it, and you're going to leave. Or you might say I screwed up and you're going to lose.
Right, yeah. So, Dean, when you first started in the industry 20 years ago, would you say that this was one of your challenges that you had to kind of figure out along the way?
100%.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Because, again, one of the things I say, there is no contractor out there that's going to tell you what you should charge.
Right.
Because they don't want you to win. They want you to lose. And even if they are your friend, they are going by their budget, by their overhead. So what good is it to me? I might just be renting and I got no overhead. So you know what? I can probably do it for a lot less than you. Or I got a huge overhead. I got a lot of crew. I got a lot of machines. I got, accountants and I've got bookkeepers and I'm going to have to charge more. There's no, so if I'm going to charge X amount, how can I tell you to charge the same? You need to know your numbers.
Yeah. So in terms of knowing your numbers, and would you say, and again, you've been doing this for a long time, I'm sure you've known a lot of contractors throughout the years. Would this be a common reason why a contractor goes out of business?
100%.
Because of the numbers, they're just not getting the numbers right.
Yeah, they may not go out of business. Maybe they'll work for someone else and use the excuse that they don't want the headache.
Right. But the reality of it is they haven't been able to figure out how to make the numbers work for themselves. So this would potentially, again, help them achieve more success in being self-employed, running their own business, and not having to work with somebody else.
Absolutely. That's what this is all about. This is educating either someone that wants to get into the business or someone that wants to learn it better, but more so knowing your numbers to make it worth your while. Or go work for someone else if you don't want the headache.
Right. And I guess from a consumer's point of view, so this might be bad for the contractor point of view, but for the consumer's point of view, more contractors, more competition, potentially also could mean better pricing for the consumer at some point. Or am I off in saying that?
There's a contractor born every day.
Right. Okay.
Well, I think for as somebody who's taking you on too, by you not using the old school guesstimator calculator, you have more faith in knowing that the project's going to come in on target to what I projected as my budget, right? What I put aside.
Exactly.
Because anybody who starts a project, when you start a bathroom or work in the backyard or whatever to put it together, you have an idea. Okay, I've got 10,000 put aside, with probably a little bit of 1,000 or two wiggle room, or for some people 70,000 or 100,000, whatever it is.
Yep.
And you're talking with me and saying, here's an actual breakdown of what everything's going to look like. You're going to be able to make a profit at the end of the day. So especially for anybody starting off, as you said, like, it's taking the guesswork out of it, right?
Yep.
And putting the actual ingredients and spices in the right order, and that you're having all the materials correct. And I've been an event planner in my past, and I always thought, when I walk through how I want the event, from the experience somebody walks in the front door, making sure I'm taking in what's going to cost for this, what's going to cost for the table at the front door to rent, what's going to cost for all the staff. All these things come into play, and it sounds like you've created something that a lot of other people that are hardscapers, people doing work within homes, need to start using to create solid foundation for their budgets, and that they can walk away with profit. And at the same time, a client is walking away super happy because you've removed all the guesswork. And there's businesses out there, and you said it too, there's contractors out there that, unfortunately, we face the same thing as advisors too, is there's some sketchy ones out there, and you're removing all of that kind of like guesswork from it, which is creating trust. And I guess, you've been in the business 20 plus years. It just says your work shows for itself, right? Show
absolutely.
the work. People will then share your name with other people. So,
yeah. And that's,
Dean,
and that's, sorry,
I was going to say, Dean, have you ever considered turning this into some kind of like a accreditation or certification program? And what I mean by that is, at some point, a client could say, hey, are you a Pro-Fit Estimator graduate or certified by, because I think this is really good for the consumer, not only for the contractor, right?
What I'd like to do, Jim, is approach one of the colleges and see if they would be interested in taking it on.
Yeah. Durham College.
I mean,
Durham College would be a good one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, where you can go in there. Well, actually, so let me go back 25 years. I went to Durham College for estimating course. And it was not a lot of people in the course. It was very expensive. And what I learned, and it was accredited, it was a diploma. What I learned was okay, It wasn't as detailed as what I'm given right now. Nowhere near as detailed as what I'm given now. And I wish back then, when I did enter it, it was as detailed as what I'm given now. So mine is superior. It's like a master course compared to what I did 25 years ago. So
see what I love about this, because originally when we talked about putting you on our podcast, we were focusing on how your program helps contractors save money and profit. But again, this also sounds like it's the consumer also benefits from this financially as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm loving this because it benefits a lot of people.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could sell this to like the cities and how they can properly manage putting together our highways and making sure things get done on time and cost effectiveness.
Yeah.
So
That's a big crock to nut, man.
yeah.
Or that's a big nut.
Yeah.
That's a big nut to crack. Sorry, the other way around.
I just stirred a very big pot with that comment too. So.
I think you did. Well, we'll leave that kind of simmering off the side for a second. So, Dean, we like to talk about the impact and success stories of these programs. You are the success story. Like, bottom line is, you started 20 years ago. You've made your mistakes. You've learned from those mistakes. You've been able to put together a system. Now you've been able to package that up, and you're able to offer it to other contractors as a program. So I think it's fantastic that you're doing this.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to hearing other people's stories that once they start signing up, because it's that fresh. I literally launched it this week.
Yeah.
So I haven't got any success stories yet, but I'm looking forward to hearing some people getting back to me saying, you know what, thank you very much, or no thank you very much. It doesn't matter either way to get the feedback, but I'm pretty sure I'll get more thank yous than no thank yous.
And if you get those thank yous and they want to be on our podcast as well, we'd be more than happy to interview them to talk about their success and, where they were before the program and where they're at after the program. I think
awesome.
It'd be very important to highlight them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do people then sign up for the program?
So the platform, originally the platform I signed up for was last year, and I did it because I had started slowing down. I purposely started slowing down. I pulled back from home shows. And it was because over COVID, I think a lot of people started pulling back. I started investing my monies in I got a couple places in Florida, and basically started laying off of projects for others. And throughout all of this, over the last 10 years, 15 years, I've also been flipping homes. That's the other thing that we do. So, and this program is great if you're flipping, because you get to figure out all your numbers for the entire flip, right?
So can non-contractors then sign up for the program? So for example, if an investor, because we have a lot of investors that own rental properties, potentially flippers. So this isn't then just really limited to a contractor. You're saying that if you're someone who is into flipping homes, that this would also help them with running that project?
Yep.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, all you have to do is change the heading or the that one line that's, and refer it to whatever that task might be in that project. If it's a roof, if it's a fireplace, it's still got to do with the home. It doesn't matter. But for the sake of flipping, you can make it work for you. And basically, you should, because that's plug and play, right? So you should be able to put a number in there, and actually it'll tell you what that contract should be charging you. That contractor should be charging you this.
Really?
Well, yeah. So it's kind of cheating for a non-contractor. But yes, absolutely. I mean, an accountant called me and he said, can I use your program because I'm putting an addition to my house? I'm like, sure. He says, great, send it to me. Okay.
So you might want to actually have two versions of the contract, like the contract, or sorry, the program, the contractor version, marketing it as a contractor version, and then having like the consumer version of it, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm taking from this, and it just happened today too. Him asking me that, and I'm like, you know what? Because I rebuilt my last house too. I should have still the templates for all that because I did one for myself to rebuild.
Yeah.
It was actually a tear down and rebuild, and I've got all the templates for that. So it'd probably take me seconds to put it together.
Yeah.
So yes,
Dean masterclasses.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And so the
well, here,
platform is. We were talking about the platform. The platform is
Yeah.
Udemy, and
how do you
before
spell
that, I hooked up with another company.
How do you spell
and,
that? So people know. to find out.
Udemy, Udemy.
Okay.
And before that, I actually most of my training was from another company called Growth Cave,
Okay.
and they're like a master class at basically coming up with a program or something that you can come up with to put out there for passive income. And I thought, okay, well, you know what? It'd be a good retirement thing. Too bad I don't have anything to give. What can I give? And my wife, Margaret, turned around and says, are you crazy? You absolutely have something you can give. Come up with a program for what you do, with the dashboard and everything else. I'm like, yeah, you think? And that's where this all stemmed from. Then I had to lay off of it for about a year because I was still, I was doing actually a flip house. And we were selling our house. So I was selling my house. I was doing a flip. I got really busy. And I had 3 projects on the go. To where I finally got back into it a couple months ago. And I no longer wanted to be with Growth Cave because I didn't like their final, their theory was to get you to sign up. And then just like we're doing right now, I try to convince you to join.
Right.
You tell me why you're here. You've taken the steps to the point where you're here now. Why do you want to join up? Do you want to join up? Well, all right. Give me whatever questions you might have, and we'll sign you up. Which is great if I wanted to charge thousands and thousands of dollars for this. I'm not doing that. So I found a Udemy platform, which is let anybody have it. It's a lot less to buy. There's no cloud version of it. It's yours. So it's nothing but a plus doing it this way. And for me, you're still going to get the same experience as if you would have signed up with me because their whole theory is videos the same. So it's an online tutoring. It's the same thing. The only difference is this platform is a lot wider. I've already gotten, I looked on it the other day to see what kind of movement is going on. I've got people signing up from Nigeria. I got people signing up from Italy and Germany. And like they're already starting to sign up all over the world. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is amazing. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, that's great because I was going to ask if this is just a Canadian program, but this is a worldwide program.
It's a worldwide program, and their platform is worldwide. So I thought this is incredible.
Yeah.
And again, at the end, passive income. At the end of the day, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I would like to make something off of this as well. I put a lot of time, and I'm still on a daily basis working on this thing for keeping it up and keeping it fresh. But I'd rather a nickel from a million people than thousands of dollars from 5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
give me that nickel. Yeah, I'm good with that. And the truth of the matter is, I'm glad that I'm able to help anybody that's out there that really wants to do well with it. Because if you do sign up, you're going to do well. I end it that way. I said when you're done completing the course and you understand it fully, you are to consider yourself a pro. Because that's the final icing on the cake. What's the difference between a really good contractor and a pro? A pro knows their numbers.
Right.
Whereas someone that's good at it may not know their numbers. They could be great at it, but if you don't know your numbers, then what good is it?
Yeah, we had a online commercial that we created about 3-4 years ago for TVH Group, our company. And basically it started off with saying, if you think a pro's expensive, wait till you hire an amateur. Right?
Yeah.
And I remember, and I'm like, that is so true. Right? Because people look at that and they're like, oh yeah, pro's too expensive. I'll just hire an amateur. Well, it's probably going to cost you a lot more in the long term. Right?
Well, and thus you get what you pay for.
That's exactly it. That's
or
exactly
what you don't pay for. It's going to cost you more.
So I guess for our listeners in the U.S., we have listeners in Europe and Australia as well. Know that this is available to all of you. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we're starting to kind of get near the end of the episode. We like to try to keep these in around 45 minutes. We're at about 44 right now. So anything final that you want to say, Dean, before we shut things down?
No. I hope that y'all want to join up, whoever's watching this, if you feel that this is for you and you need, or you know that you could use the extra experience and knowledge of how to get a proper price, or you're just interested in renos and you're interested in hardscape, because that's 2 other courses that we've got, go for it, because you're not going to lose. You're not going to lose.
And Ryan, anything you want to add? Final thoughts, questions?
I know Dean can come over to my house and do something so I can give more feedback about what excellent work he does. But it's a great starter point.
Lasagna?
Yeah, I'll take that. Because I know, looking around my area too, lots of people have decided to do a lot more of the renovations on their own homes and live and love where they live, especially in where I'm at. And I think this is a great starting point for a lot of people that I'm excited to be able to share with people in this neighborhood when they're getting, quotes from different contractors to say, hey, are they using Dean's Pro-Fit Estimator? If they're not.
It's a catchy name too, isn't it?
It is.
A Pro-Fit Estimator.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, I can definitely attest to his professionalism. He's done work for Carol and I in the past. And I remember calling Dean saying, listen, I know we're family. I'm not asking for a deal here. I'm just calling you because I know you do good work. I know you don't cut corners. I trust you. I just want to make sure that the job is done right. And every single time he and his team have done a fantastic job. And so I wouldn't hesitate in referring Dean to anybody. And I have in the past as well to our clients. So if you ever need him, I don't know if he'll go out to St. Catharines or not, but anyways, I can definitely say in the Durham region for sure, he's a fantastic contractor. So Dean, how can people get a hold of you if they have more questions for you, about the program, or even if they need your services on the contracting side? How can they get a hold of you?
You can reach out to me right through the Udemy. If they go on it, that's a UDEMY, and punch in my name, Dean Mizzi, and all the platforms come up as soon as you punch in my name. And you can reach me from that, or you can email me at deanmizzi@rogers.com. Yep.
And is there a phone number you'd like to give out, or you don't give out phone numbers, which is fine?
I usually don't give out my phone number. They can reach me either way, the other way. But yeah, absolutely.
And what I'll do is at the bottom of our YouTube channel in the description, as well as our podcast and our blog post, I'll also include the Udemy link for people to click there. And I'll see if I can add your email address too, so I can do that as well.
I also got the website, the jdmizzi.com. JDMIZZI.
Is the program linked to that as well somewhere, or no? Not yet.
On the Facebook it is, yeah.
Is it? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so on the website it's not, but on the Facebook it is.
And they can find the Facebook link on your website?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will then just add your JD Mizzi link there, and they can find you from there.
Yeah, you ever Googled yourself? I Googled myself the other day.
Oh, yeah?
You should see how much come up. It's all there.
Good or bad.
Good or bad, it's all up there. So
I'm afraid of what might come up with me. So
yeah.
Well, listen, I've enjoyed this episode, the session today. So Dean, again, thank you very much for joining us. We wish you lots of success as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure this is going to just take off, and I personally believe it's a great program, as we kind of figured out today, not just for new contractors, seasoned contractors, consumers, house flippers. There's so many use cases for the program. So I'd encourage people to check it out, and I'm sure they won't be disappointed.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, everyone. And just as a reminder, if you like this, if you like what you've heard and watched, like, share, subscribe, do all those wonderful things. You can find us on all the social media platforms. And then finally, you can also find us at www.tbhfinancial.ca. Thanks, everyone, until next time.